I need to present a disclaimer for the Robots of Film History series that I am about to introduce. I wrote a novel about amusement park robots who rebel against their creators. I got the idea for the book about a year after Disney World opened in 1971. A news story came out about a fundamentalist minister who protested Disney for having created robots in man's image for their Hall of Presidents attraction. It was, in his view, man playing God. My robots were, like the robots in the Hall of the Presidents, modeled after the U.S. presidents. I didn't sit down to work on the book until 1973. By this time, I had already seen the original Westworld. The first chapter in the book had Andrew Jackson making an escape from the park on horseback and brandishing a sword to fight anyone who tried to stop him. At one point, he becomes enraged by a security guard who gets in his way, and he hacks off the man's head. I continued to write the book over the next 20 years. I eventually removed the violence. It became a contemplative book. In my book, the robots are not really relevant to the story. Exploring the psyches of the robots just became an excuse to explore the psyches of the men who have led our country for hundreds of years. I never got positive feedback for the book. It was perhaps overlong and self-indulgent, but it nonetheless gave me great personal satisfaction writing it. I will always be proud of my robot novel. Now that I think of it, I did have one violent scene in the book. The scene was meant as black comedy. Let me read it to you. Burden thought of a time in his childhood, a sunny day when spirited neighbors spilled out onto the local fairgrounds. People were around him on every side. Poised at the threshold of puberty, he had vague stirrings seeing a leggy woman in a skimpy pink skirt lounging on the grass. Sitting inches from her ear was a radio thumping out a tune. Still, Burden had enough boyish instincts left to draw him towards a robot promoting a new brand of soda. The robot was a flashy little fellow. Its head was a clear dome filled with electronic components. Behind its transparent face lied an array of small lights, with a pair of sky blue lights creating the illusion of keen eyes, and an upwardly curving line of blinking bulbs suggesting a smile. These features, apart from their dazzle, had a childlike simplicity. A pipe inexplicably ran through the center of the robot's head and came out on top. The head, lacking the interference of a neck, merged smoothly into its pudgy body. Blue paint covering the body made it look as if the robot was wearing overalls. Its waist, a bloated rubber ring, served as a bumper. Strings tethering at least a dozen helium balloons were gathered in one of its gleaming steel claws. Breezily moving along on casters, the robot worked its way through the crowd. Its claws kept busy the whole time as it shook hands and delivered balloons. It gushed with compliments. "What a pretty dress," it remarked to a silver-haired woman in a floral print frock. "What a nice dog," it told a small boy with a sheepdog straining against its leash. It wheeled slightly beyond the crowd, where the leggy woman had sat up to watch him. The robot bowed to give her a balloon. Upon concluding its cordial introduction, the robot entertained his new friends. It sang show tunes, told knock-knock jokes, and withstood the challenge of trivia questions. Its best trick, used to cap its performance, was to produce a 2-minute fireworks show. In a thrilling display of pyrotechnics, Roman candles would be ejected from its arms and pinwheels would be shot out of that pipe in its head. It was explaining how combustibles were pumped to the explosives when suddenly, with a violent hiss, a ribbon of red smoke leaked out of its head. It stopped in mid-sentence. Its arms locked to its sides. Anxious voices broke loose in the crowd. The robot shook uncontrollably. Its head, producing a thermal glow, spun around and around. With a thunderous blast, a flare shot out of its head and torpedoed a cluster of onlookers. A woman shrieked. The sheepdog, running for cover, trampled over its tiny owner. All at once, screaming people were running in every direction. Geysers of sparks erupted from the robot's arms. The leggy woman's wisp of a skirt caught fire. The dry grass around her easily went up in flames. Her radio, in the midst of belting out a high-pitched aria, was roasted to a pungent blob. A flame flowered from the robot's crown. The mechanical man raced around in disarray. As the torch lashed out, the silver-haired old woman was incinerated. Her flower print dress dissolved like the Ponderosa map in the opening credits of Bonanza. The final image in Burden's mind was that of the sheepdog, its fur smoldering and its snout charred, hiding behind a tree and trembling. I thank you for watching. Please click the like button below and subscribe to my channel.